Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I know it is 9:30 and we have a very full agenda, so we're going to begin. No quorum requirement by the council, and I'm sure we'll be joined by many of council members within the next few moments. But just to begin the process, we just wanted to outline what's going to happen today. We're beginning now with the Public Works Department budget hearing, and then we'll be receiving the capital and debt budget presentation at that later portion. So you have, how much time do you need, Ms. Hutchins? Robin, do you need?
Mr. Chair, this presentation has been planned for 2.5 hours.
2.5, okay. It would be okay if we were less than that, but we expect a full time.
We agree, Mr. Chair.
Good. Thank you very much. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and begin if you'd like. We'll call you up if you could introduce yourself. You're new to the city, and we welcome you. And you're doing an outstanding job organizing it so far, as well as the enormous public works staff, the generosity that they've showed. So, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Robin Hutchison. I'm the director of the Public Works Department, and I'm very happy to be here today to present our budget. I want to start by, there's going to be a lot of this through this presentation, thanking, first and foremost, the people sitting behind me here. Lisa Cerny and Brett Jelly have done just an amazing job of preparing me for this presentation today, not just to make the presentation, but to thoroughly understand the budget of the Public Works Department. So thanks very much to Lisa and to Brett. I also want to thank the division directors who each in their own divisions have prepared their own budgets and were able to explain to me their operations very clearly. They are here today to help me to answer specific questions that you have about our budget. I'd like to introduce everyone, if you could just sort of wave a hand. John Shark-Billig with Fleet Services. Jennifer Hager, Transportation Planning and Programming. John Wirches, there you are. Traffic and Parking, Don Elwood, Transportation Engineering and Design. Mike Kennedy, Transportation Maintenance and Repair. Dave Herberholz, Solid Waste and Recycling. Glenn Garretts, Water Treatment and Distribution. And Katrina Kessler, Surface Waters and Sewer. I also want to introduce and say thank you to Vicki Stone, our budget manager, who is the master of the detail and who also, along with Brett and Lisa, spent a lot of time preparing me for this presentation. And finally, I just want to thank the department directors for their trust in trusting me to make this presentation today, and to the City Council for their support in these last 5 weeks of employment. Okay, so long introduction. I'm going to start now to talk about our presentation. We have a slight departure from previous years. This will be a bit different. We're going to spend about the first hour, possibly shorter if we can manage it, talking about our operating budget. I will present the department's operating budget. Yes?
Yeah,
oh, it is?
I was about to say that.
You know what? That's why it says don't touch the microphone, and we did, and that's what happens.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goodman.
2.5 hours of that would not be pleasant.
I was about to do that, yeah.
Is this better?
Much more tolerable.
Is this better?
Somewhere in between those two would be good. If we have a problem, either if we can't hear you or if we're hearing too much of you,
I'll be gentle.
We'll make sure we'll make a point. But thank you.
So we have a slight departure from previous budgets. And today we've got 3 portions of the presentation. The first of which is the operating budget of the Public Works Department. I will present the operating budget. The second part of our presentation will present the mayor's amended capital paving program, which is the result of the ordinance that was passed in April of last year. And then finally, Mike Abelin from the Finance Department will join us to discuss the capital and debt overview. So moving into the operating budget for Public Works. I'd like to provide some context for you in the form of organizational charts and funding overview. general fund programs. Then I'll move into enterprise, internal service, capital, special revenue fund programs. Each of these will be presented in its own section. One way to make sense of the operating budget is to discuss them in terms of the fund types: general fund, enterprise fund, internal service, capital, special revenue funds. Context for our department is here in our organizational chart. We have 9 divisions covering a wide range of activities organized within the transportation business utility line and the utility business line, and as well business administration, which includes fleet. We do not have any organizational changes included in the mayor's recommended budget for 2017. Our staffing, as proposed in the mayor's recommended budget, remains relatively flat. You'll see here a 4 staff member increase in total. 1 staff member added to surface waters and sewers. 2 in traffic and parking. There's no operational impact to the addition of those 2 positions. They're currently contract. They will be transferred to the operating budget. And lastly, 1 additional position in transportation planning and programming to support the increased capital work. And that will be included in capital positions. It may be helpful to note here that this 948 positions within the Public Works Department does not include additional employees that serve our capital program that are funded by the capital program. There are approximately 150 positions. Okay, we'll move into some numbers now. I'll present next the expense and revenue budgets for the Public Works Department as proposed in the mayor's recommended budget. The expense budget is proposed at $342 million, the majority of which is contained within the enterprise funds. And similarly, the revenue budget, which is proposed at $374.9 million, is also primarily composed of the enterprise funds. So with that context and overview of the revenue expense of the Public Works Department, I'll now talk a little bit in greater detail about each of the fund types within Public Works, beginning with the general fund. Okay, so some more numbers here. Within the general fund, we have the majority of our program work. To help make sense of this, we have provided a table. It's on the next 2 slides. You need not review every single number unless you really want to. I'm going to point out for you where we have some one-time changes here, and it's in the first 2 rows. The first one-time change is an addition of $500,000 to support the operation of the Commons Park. The second one-time request is $325,000 for the continued acceleration of our upgrades of LED streetlights.
Excuse me, Robin, just real quick,
Yes.
just want to check in. Councilmember Goodman, did you have a question or just checking? Okay, thank you. Just wanted to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Reich, who's of course the chair of the Transportation Public Works Committee, Councilmember Goodman, Councilmember Johnson, Councilmember Palmisano. Thank you. Please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. There are a few areas of the operating budget that have seen a little bit of change in our base budgets. And for those, I'll review them as we're working through our program areas, which is coming up next. As you might predict, snow and ice control is our largest single program budget item in the Public Works Department. The mayor's proposed 2017 budget also includes a significant amount of resources to street maintenance and repair and to the traffic program. The remainder of the budget within the general fund is distributed among the program areas in bridge maintenance, transportation planning and programming, and you can see the rest here on the pie chart. So for many of our programs, there is both expense and revenue. And I'd like to cover the revenue side of things with this summary slide here. So for each program, expense and revenue is shown. And revenue within the general fund is largely generated by lane use fees, work for others through agreement. This includes our bridge work, much of our bridge work, snow clearing, and street maintenance and ramps, and also from what is charged by the administration division back to the divisions.
Excuse me, Councilmember Palmisano has a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Hutchinson, could you help me understand, or maybe this is more a question for Mike Kennedy, where do the revenues come in from snow? They come from agreements that we clear snow for, like, other, like, county roads and council projects or something like that?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Councilmember Palmisano, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So that you understand the activities within each program that is covered by the proposed budget, we have just a bit more information on each program, beginning with administration. The expenditure budget is projected at $3.9 million for 2017. This is where we provide the leadership as well as the support services for the rest of the department. There are no staffing changes proposed within this division.
Could you, if I could, ask a question on this particular slide? I know a lot is happening right now in our new hiring processes. I wonder if you could explain where we're at with that, what's happening today, what's going on.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for that question. We do have a large effort underway right now. There are 4 categories of employment that are now open. There's an opportunity for approximately 40 new people to be hired in the department. And so that we are actively recruiting, we have a fantastic team in the field at close to 15 events throughout the community to actively recruit for these positions. And not only that, to help people to apply for these positions at those events.
That was within the 16 budget, is that correct? Or is that part of the 17 budget plans?
I believe it's both. Yeah,
a little bit of both.
It's both. It was included in 16. It is proposed again for 17.
So I recall when we were constructing the 16 budget, we know we needed a lot of new employees because of some retirements and some expansion of programs. So this is an outcome that comes from that work of 16 that we can directly tie back, and it's certainly really important for our hiring diversity within hiring within the city. The approach that's been taken from the HR side within the department. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that the administration team appreciates hearing that. So while there are no organizational or staffing changes within administration, this is one of the areas where there is a one-time proposed change, $500,000 for operation of Commons Park. The second place you'll see proposed change is to support the acceleration of the LED streetlight replacement program, $325,000. This has been a very successful program over the last year or so. Numerous replacements have taken place. This new $325,000 would convert over 650 fixtures. This is roughly $82,000 a year of savings, and it's recouped over about 4 years.
Yeah, when we first started doing the acceleration, it was, I think, a 6-year payback. So the more money that we can save and then pour that back into the energy savings program is a great investment on our part. Councilmember Pop, is that all? Continue, please. Sorry.
Also within traffic and parking services, this is the traffic program, which operates and maintains all of our traffic control devices. Over 800 signals in the city. It's a lot of signals with an expenditure budget proposed at $9.9 million. Our next program within the general fund budget is bridge maintenance and repair. This is where we do some of the more common activities, including bridge flushing, joint and bearing maintenance on the city's bridges. The proposed expenditure budget is $3 million. Also within street maintenance and repair, this program is really the heart of maintenance and repair, where the city repairs our streets, potholes, including preventative pavement maintenance. This is the seal coating and crack sealing program here. What I want to note in this program is the addition of $800,000 into the operating budget. This was included in the ordinance, the Parks and Streets ordinance, to support the maintenance of streets, primarily for the seal coating program, also for crack sealing as well.
Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification, I think people have gotten used to these sort of treatments, which of course create great value for our assets regarding asphalt streets. But we now are prepared with techniques to actually address concrete streets as well, to get more assets out of them.
Was there a question? I'm sorry.
Oh,
I don't know if everybody's hearing each other. We're having some issues on audio.
Perhaps I could paraphrase Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
I think the fourth estate here, the reporter said I wasn't heard, so I'll repeat the question. So we're very familiar with some of these treatments to get more out of our assets regarding asphalt streets, but we now are prepared with techniques that can address some of our concrete streets, which haven't been addressed in a similar manner for many years. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair
Yes.
and members of the committee, Councilmember Reich, that's correct. And within this $800,000, we are able to also do some of the joint sealing on our concrete streets. This is similar to what someone explained this to me, so I can't take credit for this, but it's similar to what you would do in your home to keep moisture from coming through the surface and damaging the concrete further. So we can now more, in a better way, treat in advance this basic maintenance effort on our concrete streets by doing the joint sealing, crack sealing earlier.
Thank you.
Also within transportation maintenance and repair is the special service districts. There are 15 of these around the city. They're funded by assessment, as you know. There's a distinction here. You'll hear again about special service districts later in our budget. These are the special service districts that are actually managed and operated by the city and therefore are included in our general fund budget. The expenditure here is $2.1 million. Also within transportation maintenance and repair, our snow and ice control program is responsible for removing snow and ice on all city streets. The expenditure budget is the largest within the general fund budget of the Public Works Department. The mayor's proposed budget includes $13.2 million in expense for snow and ice control.
If I could interrupt real quickly, I don't have the exact number in front of me, so maybe Ms. Green, if you could help me. Is this represent a significant change from previous years, or is this new, different in terms of just the anticipated expenditure? Of course, we'll spend what we need to spend, but this is the budget. And does it include the sidewalks and corners that we had talked about in last year as an expansion of that program? Or maybe that's something you could help us with.
Chair Quincy, committee members, this is comparable to what it was last year.
Okay,
in
so that'd be
2016.
just a continuing service level kind of focus. And it would include then the corners and some of the sidewalk treatments that we paid particular attention to in our heavier pedestrian corridors. So thank you.
Transportation maintenance repairs also responsible within the malls and plaza program to maintain green spaces in malls and plazas, as well as bike trails and protected lane maintenance. The mayor's recommended budget is $2.2 million. Also within transportation maintenance and repair, the ramp maintenance and repair program is proposed at $2.8 million to support the operations of both state and city-owned ramps and lots. Okay, well, we are through the transportation maintenance and repair program within the general fund budget, and now we're moving on to transportation engineering and design. The surface transportation management program, you're going to hear it here in the general fund. You'll hear me talk about it again when we talk about operating capital. Here within the general fund, there's an expenditure budget of $1.9 million, which covers the right-of-way permitting and bridge inspection, real estate management, the supportive services of construction in our right-of-way. I'll note here, too, that permits really show us growth of the city. It's one of the ways in which we can predict how quickly the city is growing. We wanted to include this bar chart here to show that we really have had an increase in the utility connections, which tells us quite a lot about growth of our city.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I just noticed issues 3,500 utility connection permits a year. Just wanted to highlight that. And as you just explained, it's really just represents growth in the city. So there's more connections to our systems.
It does. So last but certainly not least in our general fund budget for public works is the transportation planning and programming program or division. This is a highly visible area of our organization whose responsibilities include long-range transportation planning, the CIP, which you're going to hear more about later today, and many of our large partnership projects with our external agencies. They also take the lead on our community engagement. The expenditure budget proposed is $2.3 million. I'll take just a short pause here now to be sure that there aren't any remaining questions on the general fund portion of the Public Works budget before I move into our enterprise funds.
Okay. Not seeing any. Please continue.
Okay, so this next segment of the operating budget will focus on the mayor's proposed budget for 2017 for each of the 5 enterprise funds within Public Works. So for water treatment and distribution, solid waste and recycling, sanitary sewer, stormwater, and parking, the total expense budget is proposed at $229.9 million. And the mayor's recommended budget for 2017 for revenue is $299.1 million. Similar to the general fund presentation, We'll talk just briefly about each of the enterprise funds, starting with solid waste and recycling. This is one of our most public faces of the city, one that we know our residents care deeply about. The budget includes collection and disposal of solid waste and recycling, organics, yard waste, clean city services, as well as operating the South Transfer Station. And the proposed budget for 2017, Mayor's recommended, is similar to 2016 at $40 million, just over $40 million. Just a few highlights from this program. We're working diligently to grow the participation in the organics program.
What is the status right now of the organics program now that it's fully implemented? I know we had some capital that was built into the program last year. What is the status?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for that question. I think there's some pride in the status of this program right now. Exactly, I don't want to say approximately because we're down to 2 decimal points, 39.93% of all residents have chosen to participate in the organics program. I think we've achieved this participation earlier than was expected, not resting on laurels. The team is continuing to do outreach in lower participation areas of the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so to the proposed rates here, the total recommended rate for a residential monthly bill is proposed at $28.47 per month. This is an increase of 2.1%. However, it is slightly lower than what was projected in the 5-year plan. This is a result of organics coming in slightly lower than what was originally anticipated, about 11 cents lower than what was anticipated.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Glidden has a question.
I was just curious how sort of the participation rate of the organics program overlays with our budget expectations. So, I know we had a certain percent of expectation. We're trying to continue to grow the program. I don't know at what point sort of we're meeting expectations, and then we need to kind of add to what we thought was the cost of the program because the program starts to grow, or if we just feel like we're kind of set because we have the system in place and the adding of the residents or participation rate doesn't have that much of an effect.
Mr. Chair and Councilmember Glidden, members of the committee, I will start an answer to that, but I may call on David Herberholz, our division director, to fill in some blanks where I may not have all the information. The 2017 proposed budget will cover the cost of the growth of participation. It's what we anticipate. In years beyond that, I believe it will take some evaluation of our budget, just as we do with our other enterprise funds, and projection on 5-year to be sure that we're adapting as the growth continues. And I'll look to David Herberholz to contribute if you'd like.
Yeah. It might be nice to know kind of what's your goal,
Yes,
and then
certainly.
what happens if we exceed that goal.
Certainly. Chair Quincy, Councilmember Glidden, and committee members, Dave Herberholz, Solid Waste and Recycling Director. So we're very excited. The study that we had done prior, that we had a consultant do for organics, talked about a very aggressive goal of possibly getting 40% sign up and participation in the program. So we're there already. And we just finished the implementation of carts to the entire city in mid-June. So right now, there's a lot of variables that we're starting to do some analysis on. One, we're very excited about the participation. The next step is to try to impact the volume set out per participant. It's a little bit lower than what we had anticipated, and I think it's just because of the complexity of the program. I think most people are starting out with what they can manage, and that's, their food scraps. We're trying to get them to then roll into, the soiled papers, meat and bones, non-traditional organics items. But as far as our cost and the budget shows, we're operating expenses for next year are anticipated to be $4 million, and that pretty much includes all the cart purchases that we've made, and just as people go on, we've got replacements that are already budgeted in there for new carts. And the good thing about this too is I think what we're finding is the trend is as more people participate in the organics program, they're finding that they've been able to reduce their, the organic waste that maybe is problematic with their solid waste, traditional solid waste. So they're actually going down to a smaller cart and saving that $3 a month. So that's somewhat of an incentive for the homeowners right now.
And then what do you think's the projection that you have kind of over your 5 years or whatever it is for how the program might grow from 40% to whatever?
Yeah, we haven't really thought about that. We're out there promoting. We want everybody to participate.
Yep.
So we've got a very active our recycling coordinator and program aide, our involvement with neighborhood and community relations and their outreach individuals. They're trying to find out what the barriers are to those that may not be participating, trying to break those down and get everybody to understand that this is included in their base fee, and please participate, and hopefully in the very near or further future impact us moving towards zero waste.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll continue now to move on to talk about water treatment and distribution. This enterprise fund, we treat 57 million gallons of drinking water per day. If you've not toured the Fridley plant, it is well worth
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, now I have to be louder? Should I be louder?
Well, yeah.
A little louder.
Our Fridley facility and Columbia Heights facility, together we treat 57 million gallons of drinking water per day, and it's quite an operation if you've had a chance to tour it. See if you haven't toured it. Yes. This enterprise fund also maintains the distribution system, and many of the costs that are built into rates are to support that, both the filtration and distribution of our water. This year we've included or added a new customer. New Brighton will be on Minneapolis Water until their facility improvements are completed, which adds a bit of revenue assumption to the budget here.
Excuse me, Ms. Hutchinson. I know we've made some capital projects along in the water treatment area. Are we experiencing any cost savings, cost expansions, and are our customers experiencing any drinkability, odor, taste changes?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'll start with your second part of the question first. The proposal here, the mayor's proposed budget includes an upgrade to the filtration system using granulated activated carbon. From time to time, organics in the river during high runoff can affect odor and taste, not quality, odor and taste. And we believe that problem will be eliminated with the granular activated carbon filtration. To the first part of your question, there's some capital investment being made in both filtration and in distribution that will show on this next slide in the rates. These are investments that are necessary regardless of the amount of water that is sold.
Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll just add that we're also investing in what I consider to be a double redundancy. We're trying to get redundancy in terms of how we treat water. We have two different ways to treat water for health and safety, in addition to water quality. And I would also say that we're working towards having redundancy in terms of source, to have backup systems in place if we were to have a source, our main source failure. So we're investing in the long range, is my understanding, let alone the short range. And yes, it's very significant that we picked up a new customer. They're a happy customer. They really had to really understand. The mayor of New Brighton, Valerie Johnson, really went out of her way to understand what our water quality is about, our system, our sources, so she could go back to her public and convey that. And I think she was able to get a lot of great information thanks to the staff who gave her the information she needed. we do have an incredible system, but we have to keep maintaining it and moving it forward. So I think this budget reflects that forward movement.
Thank you.
Okay, the mayor's recommended budget includes $57 million within this enterprise fund. Some highlights from the program looking forward, implementing an asset management program. This is the Maximo program. You'll hear about this twice during this presentation, as well as what we've just been talking about, targeted investment and rehabilitation. The proposed rate for the residential average monthly bill is $28.71. This is a 3.8% increase and is the same as what was proposed in the 5-year plan. Okay, moving on to our third enterprise fund, the third of 5. Sanitary sewer. A quick summary of our activities that are covered by this budget area. This is capital and maintenance activities for our sanitary pipe. Some of them date as far back as to 1870, and as well sanitary tunnels and pump stations. I want to highlight here that this enterprise funds includes our payment to Met Council for the sanitary treatment, and you'll see those ripple through the budget and the rates. So this year we're seeing an increase of the Met Council rates of 3.6%. The mayor's recommended budget reflects that at $61 million. Some other highlights will be implementing an asset management framework. I fully expect that exactly this time next year we'll be able to talk with you about better information and data of our sanitary sewer system. The proposed rate for 2017 is $26.10 per month for a residential unit. This is the same as what was proposed in the 2016 5-year plan that was presented. And I'd like to note, just circling back to a few slides ago, this includes the increase in fees paid to Met Council.
Yeah.
Also within the Surface Water and Sewers Division, the fourth of 5 enterprise funds will talk about stormwater. The responsibilities here include capital and maintenance activities of all of our stormwater pipe and tunnels and ponds and pump stations. I've had a chance to spend some time with Katrina Kessler, and the work here is really outstanding, especially to understand where we have spot issues and what potential fixes, be they short or long term, we can really look at. So this is a 2-part enterprise fund where it includes both stormwater, the collection and the treatment, as well as our street cleaning activities, which support our cleaning of the stormwater. These two programs together are at $28 million, proposed at $28 million, just over $28 million. We will continue to leverage our street construction projects to address known problem areas as we move forward.
Robin, I just wanted to check this. Is 2017's recommendation for that budget actually less than 2016 adopted? Does that reflect some sort of right sizing, actualization? Looks like it does. Not in the monthly. I'm back on slide 38.
Yes, I can go back there.
Just wanted to highlight
Mr.
that.
Chair and members of the committee, I think I'm going to call a lifeline in, and perhaps Vicki or Brett or Katrina. Katrina was halfway up. If Katrina could join me just for a moment here.
I think it's
Thank
just
you.
a matter of math.
Let's verify with our division director.